Hello and welcome to my introductory video to the USA civil rights topic, looking at the situation that black people in America faced in the 1950s. So across America, black Americans faced segregation and discrimination on a daily basis. Segregation in the North was based on discrimination, so black people usually had the worst paid jobs. They therefore lived in the poorest parts of towns and cities, called ghettos, where facilities were often run down. In the South, segregation was based on the racist Jim Crow laws, which enforced segregation. It meant there were separate schools, cinemas, restaurants and so on for black people and white people. They also made it difficult for black people to vote. These laws were passed because in the South the white governing communities thought that black people were inferior to them, that they were lazy and unintelligent. The police and the law courts were full of racist officials, especially in the Deep South, where many were also members of the Ku Klux Klan. The effects of the Second World War, though, and the role played by black Americans who fought in it, led to hope for equality and also to pressure on government. And some of this pressure came from civil rights organisations. The NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People, fought for civil rights through the law courts. They focused on overturning the Plessy v Ferguson separate but equal ruling that said separate but equal was acceptable so long as the facilities were equal. NAACP lawyers tried to do this by providing evidence that separate facilities were not equal and by fighting to desegregate schools and colleges on the basis that they did not give the same opportunities. Another civil rights organisation, CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, worked mainly in the North and had many white members. They used non-violent direct action and trained members in its use, including getting publicity, explaining aims but not arguing, and not breaking the law or fighting back or resisting arrest. There were also a number of church organisations, so black American churches were often the centre of black communities in the South and were the focal point for meetings. They worked steadily, negotiated and used non-violent public protests. So despite this push for civil rights, there was a lot of opposition to it. They faced opposition particularly in the South, and violent opposition came from organisations like the Ku Klux Klan. There was the famous case, for example, of Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy from the northern part of America, Chicago, who was visiting his cousins in the South and was murdered for making comments to a white woman. He was beaten, shot and thrown into a river. At his funeral, his mum had an open casket funeral, and the images of this led to shock and outrage, but his killers walked free, even though they admitted to murder. There was political opposition to civil rights too. Southern Democrats, known as Dixiecrats, broke away from their own party for a while to oppose civil rights bills, and Southern officials also favoured segregation.